Get started.
All right, I'll call the meeting to order at 5:33 p.m.
You're off to a good start.
Yeah, I guess we'll start with roll call.
Commissioner McCullough,
I'm present.
Straighberger,
Here.
Cratch is excused, Case,
Here.
Koenig,
Here.
Rice is excused, and we have one vacancy. You do have four.
All right. So I'll look to go to approval of the January 28th minutes. 28th, excuse me, minutes.
A motion to approve. I'll second.
Those minutes have been approved. Let's do words with my language. We'd like to vote on them. They're approved. All right, scheduled business. Looks like we have an update on the schedule and overview to develop some funding options for street maintenance.
That'll be me. Hello, commissioners. I have spoken with Commissioner McCullough and Stripberger before, but I don't know if I've spoken about. Okay. So I'm Stacy Belcastro. I am the city engineer with the Public Works Engineering Department. And I'm going to be providing just a recap of a discussion that we had with council during yesterday's work session. The recap started with an overview of presentations that we started almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, to talk about the condition of Albany streets, the funding available to maintain Albany streets, and we identified the funding gap. How much money do we need to maintain Albany's streets to an acceptable level? At the conclusion of that series that initiated, I just said I was going to try to work on that. That initiated a year and a half ago, council's support for funding options was mixed. And I think the commission, the input we got was also mixed, but three options, they asked us to look at three options. And so what they were was, one was a street maintenance fee. And council did pass an ordinance last September, which established a chapter in our municipal code. What this chapter does is it does not set or impose a fee, but it provides the legal authority for the city to start working to develop a fee. The fee still has to be approved and adopted by council via resolution. So that's one funding option. The other funding option that they asked us to look at was a local gas tax. And so a local gas tax is a funding option that the voters have to vote for. And then the third funding option that they asked us to look at further was what's called general obligation bonds. And so general obligation bonds also have to be voted on by the public. Generally, they are for more community-wide projects because the community votes on them. And so our discussion with council is we did not think it was timely at this point to put a bond package on the ballot. What we call our higher volume streets, arterials, and collectors, which when I say that, we're talking about Queen Avenue, Waverly, Jackson Street, Marion Street, they're in fairly good condition. And so if we were to put that on a ballot, it's likely the voters wouldn't think we needed to spend millions of dollars on those roads. It's really our local residential neighborhood streets, like the street that you don't know exists in town unless you or somebody you know lives there. That's the problem in Albany. So once council passed this ordinance, we hired a consultant, Gallardi Rothstein, to start to do work to look at the data. So for street maintenance fees, they can be very basic or complex. And so we hired a consultant to, with staff, start looking at data that we will be presenting to council for their feedback and then direction on moving forward. The other thing that we did was we hired a consultant called Concert. And Concert's, you may be familiar, we hired Concert 9 months ago to do some focus groups and community-wide surveys looking at a street maintenance fee. We are hiring them again to look at getting people's input on a local gas tax and also that in combination with the street maintenance fee. And so we're going to be scheduling focus groups actually next week, I believe. And then that will be followed up by a community-wide survey. Work staff's been doing is, I think there's 1,000 properties. The last time I talked with our engineer, Rob Emmons, that we've been reviewing, going out in the field and performing QA, QC, just so that we have that information for when Greg Gallardi has to start doing the different scenarios for street maintenance fees and methodologies that council can consider.
What's that? What's QA, QC?
Quality assurance, quality control. So an example was like Walmart. Going out in the field or using Google Maps to verify that that is an actual grocery store, just making sure so that when we assign classes to these properties, industrial and commercial, that it's the correct one. Walmart is going to generate a lot more trips. Costco is versus, I have a blank, but there's some larger commercial properties that they're not going to generate as many trips. And so we look at all that data when we're putting together scenarios for different street maintenance fees. And this is a real Cliff Notes version of all the previous discussions that we've had with council, and even the discussion last night was 20 minutes long. Here's a pitch for if anybody that's listening to this commission meeting or in attendance wants additional information. We have a street maintenance fee website online that has all the slideshows and videos of the presentations, and then also just information on streets in Albany, going down to like how many miles of arterials, which are that's our busiest streets do we have and what condition they are. All that information is available on the website.
What's the website's address, if you're asking?
I usually go on albanyoregon.gov and then just type in street maintenance, but this memo that I think I can hand out, and as long as you don't take notes, it has the web address right here, but yeah, so I'll hand that out to everybody. The other thing that the staff memo from yesterday's presentation has is there is an attachment, and it has the dates of all of the council meetings. We didn't list all of the traffic commission meetings, but it has the council meetings discussing, and it notes what we discussed at the meeting, and then also it notes if there was any council direction there as well. So it's a good resource if you're wanting to get additional information.
Here, over here.
So we did talk about a schedule with council yesterday. And we also discussed with council that when we're reporting to them, we would also be coming to a commission meeting either before or after, depending on how the meetings fall, to either give you guys a preview or a recap of what the discussion's going to be. I'll go through those dates. There's one where we're even kind of thinking, maybe it's a joint meeting, or maybe it's a meeting where instead of meeting here, the commissioners meet at a work session or attend a work session or a council meeting, just so that everybody's in the audience together. So that's something you can talk about with, I guess, Andrew, to see if that's something that you want to do. The first meeting, the council meeting that we have scheduled tentatively on the calendar, I think it's a week though, is a check-in at the April 7th council work session. At that meeting, the consultant Gallardi Rothstein and staff will be providing an overview of the work they've done to date. And then we also anticipate that they'll be discussing different case studies, cities, like different types of street maintenance fees that the council could consider different structures. And is there any questions about that?
Yeah, that was a little confusing. So, they're gonna give them options for fees?
Yeah,
Okay.
not a number, like at this point, we're just talking about how are we gonna assess the fee? For residential, it could, or even commercial and industrial, it could just be a flat fee, like everybody pays 50 cents. That's like on one end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum, you could be looking at like, what's the impact of the property? You know, is it a Costco? Is it a doctor's office? How big is it? There's a lot of different parameters that you can use to develop the fee. Of course, the more complex it gets, the harder it is more, you know, to manage, but maybe more equitable as well. So, but Deb will be going over just like a range of different ways that a street fee can be assessed.
Do you know how many other communities and counties have a street fee?
I do. It's a very street fees are very common in Oregon. I believe the number is 27, and they range from $3 up to $16
Like a single family house.
for a residential rate. Yes,
$16 and
That's the highest.
that's the highest. Yeah.
So your happy medium is probably around the 70.
The thing about, and Deb Gallardi will talk about this, I mean, it is a fee. There is an option. So with the street fee, there is an option for a low income assistance program. With the street fee, also everybody pays. So there's no tax exempt properties. That's something that I guess that could be a positive. The gas tax, a positive about that is it does capture people that are just driving through Albany to shop at Costco. They fuel up, so it does capture those trips or impacts on the road.
Because the maintenance fee wouldn't attach to anybody like Lebanon Street and Home Dwellers. Say I'm coming over to say go to Costco or
And I didn't mention this, but the funding gap that we're looking at, it is large. It's $12.8 million. And it's a decision though. I mean, it's a decision,
that has to be made.
yeah, that has to be made, and we're not advocating for any decision right now. It's just we're providing the information, and it's worse, much worse for our local streets. Our arterial and collectors, 80 to 90% of them are in fair to good condition, and that's because the majority of funds that are available are spent on arterial and collectors for many reasons. One, some of the funds are restricted and they can only be spent on the major streets. And then the other is that in Albany's strategic plan, we've always had for a long time the goal that we want to maintain the arterial and collectors to a minimum pavement condition index of fair and good.
we go back to the fees and stuff real quick, and you said assistance, low income assistance programs. And I brought this up with council members, and I don't think anybody here can help, but if somebody can like follow through or something, because nobody ever has, but the city doesn't have an in-house discount program at all. They look at you like you're an idiot, and then they tell you to go somewhere else, CSE or a church or something. And there's no in-house program within the city that will help low-income residents. And if that could be implemented, because they tell you to go to CSE, and I don't know if you ever had to do that, I'm low income, I'm an artist. And
What is CSC?
community consortium,
Community Service Consortium.
yeah. And you can only go there like twice a year. They only open it up in the fall and in the spring, something like that. And you have like a 5-day window to get in there and talk to them, or else they shoo you away. And it's very difficult, and they don't do anything with water. And as much as people, I mean, you can get within their program and then they'll apply a discount onto your water bill, but that's just for usage. And if you look at your water bill, your usage is just a small tiny fraction of your water bill. I mean, dollars, and everything else is fees and, you know, and whatever they want to tack on there, and it doesn't affect that at all. And I hear people bring this up.
So this is the only way to get a low income discount is through. these
Water for
programs?
the city is going down there when there's an opening. And when they release that opening, or sometimes they'll get like a grant or something, and if you walk in there and they'll be like, yeah, we just got a grant or something, but that's rare. I mean, it's not easy, and the discount through the city does nothing, basically. I mean, you get 50% off your usage, which is like $4 or something. So if that could be implemented, I've talked to multiple people about this multiple times and nothing ever. It can't be that hard to figure out some sort of discount program in-house.
So now, go ahead, Danny. Do you know if this low income would go through the CFT, or would this be, and this is, I mean, I don't know if you know or not, would this be something totally separate that they would have to apply for? And then whatever department is going to handle that influx is going to handle that, or is this going to be tied in to the CSC? Because that brings us some concerns, and I think that would bug me if we're saying, hey, we're gonna be able to do this, but you can only do it 2 times a year. And we imagine the backlog of that's just gonna be ridiculous. So is there anything set to, like, if that was one of the programs that was adopted, like we're gonna have this program for the city and say Andrew is in charge of that, and he will be the person that his staff takes on to that. Not saying that, Andrew, but do you know yet?
I don't know, it's too early, but your feedback has been noted. That's the first that I'm not familiar with the program as used by the city, and so I did not realize that it was only available 2 times a year.
And well, for most of the community, I'd say they have senior programs where if you're a senior citizen, there's other options. And I think do you know anything about it? Because
The Cascades West Cog provides senior and disability services on site, and that's over at McQueen. So
No, this is all very good feedback.
I was gonna mention that came up in those discussions before, where a couple of the counselors brought up the fact that the low income assistance program as it is for utility bills in general is not it's not functioning as intended.
Yeah.
It's a very, very low participation rate. And so there is interest from the council to change that, so that it actually is more usable and, for its actual purpose. So I mean, that's coming from the council, that was feedback that we got, that like they don't like the way that it's structured, right?
And I've been talking to several of them for a couple of years about it, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a bigger issue, I think.
There's structural issue that needs to.
Right, but so I think they're aware of the issue, and that's just at least a couple of counselors that wanted to take action on that, yeah.
I was just gonna echo what you guys said basically about the issue. So I wasn't aware of that being an issue. That's awful.
Question, so here's my biggest concern. These brother fees and that for decades, the city has always wanted to maintain arterials and collectors. How can we be assured, because my frustration is a local streets, and so it's like, they're first, second, third, you go down there and I can guarantee you, you're gonna have an issue. There's just a guarantee, you just drive down there, it doesn't matter which direction. It's just crappy because we have had, as I've come to find, zero money going into our local streets. So my worry is that we start a fee, which I think the street maintenance, that might be what's gonna be more advantageous. But then it starts getting pulled like, well, we're gonna move it here. How can we be assured that it's only gonna be done for our local streets? Because if we're having funding for arterials and collectors, then there should be no need that this fee, if it goes past or gas tax, that is gonna stay for our local maintenance of our streets. It's at 12.8 million, that's a very big chunk. And I can see, because it's happened, when the maintenance was coming out of the general fund, then I guess years over years, they just started peeling that back to where now that didn't happen. I know that was decades ago. How are we gonna stop that from happening this time? Because that's my concern, is like, okay, great, get a fee and then, all right, no, we're gonna start taking it and moving it over here. Then we're back to square one again.
So if, my understanding is with a street maintenance fee or a local gas tax, the fees will be restricted to only being spent on streets, to maintain streets. And the other thing that we can discuss is putting, like being very open and transparent on how we are going to be spending those the money on, like, maybe it's 100% on local streets. And so that will be part of, this is a good segue into a public education and outreach campaign that is going to be probably kick-started in May. We're going to be starting to go out and talk with service groups in Albany. It can be the Mennonite Home, Kiwanis, the Chamber, all of them, and do a discussion, like we're going to create with Concert, who is the consultants that's going to be doing public outreach for us. We're going to create like a speakers bureau kit of information so that we can share the information that we have with council and the commission. Community hasn't been privy to any of that. I mean, we talked about that, I think, before the meeting started, that a lot of people don't attend council meetings, they don't watch the commission meetings, and so we need to get that message out into the community so that they understand the issue, why we're here right now, and here's some solutions, options for solutions that we want to discuss, just so that they have the same understanding. The last focus group we did about a year ago, I think the majority of people think that the streets, we're getting general funds to, like, their property taxes to maintain streets. And I mean, the reality is we're not, maybe years ago we did, but right now the funding to maintain our streets is really limited to gas tax, federal gas tax, and then our water and sewer and LUA fees. So.
One question I have is this a one-time, like, to maintain them and bring them up to an acceptable standard now? Or would this be in perpetuity kind of thing?
Great question, and it's going to be ongoing. So the funding gap that we identified, it was calculated based on a 4-year term, I think.
Right, yeah.
And that recognized that maintaining the streets is ongoing. Just like your roof on your house, it could last, depending on the type of shingles, anywhere from 10, 20, 30 years. So there's certain maintenance that you have to do to streets depending on their condition every 5, 10, 20, 40 years in order to keep your investment in that road and keep it from falling apart.
Okay.
So back to April 7th, that is going to be the work session where staff and Gallardi will present a summary of their work and also options that can be considered to develop a street maintenance fee. And then Concert is going to provide a summary of the outreach they conducted a year ago. And then also just initial feedback from the 2 focus groups that they're gonna be holding next week. And then we will also be, I think with that date, there's an April 22nd report at the commission meeting. Yeah, so
What time does it mean?
April 7th at the council work session, and we'll start at 4. And then we will also have a report at your April meeting, which I think is on April 22nd.
Are we gonna get a list of these dates? The ones that you're reading?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Provide that. Or I can send that to Andrew to share. And then at the May 28th council meeting, that was the meeting we thought maybe if the commission members were able to attend, it would be a good meeting to attend. At that meeting, CONSER is going to have their final results from the public opinion research, and they'll be able to present that. And then there'll be another update from Gallardi, the consultant that's working on the street maintenance fee. During this time, May through June, staff's gonna be conducting their community outreach and education. Commission members or just advocates for street maintenance are always welcome to attend. And then assuming council wants to put a gas tax on the November 4th ballot, we would talk about recommended language for the ballot title at the July 7th work session, and then we would provide a resolution to council at the July 9th meeting. After the gas tax title is filed, staff can no longer campaign in support of it, or in opposition. So there's ORS rules that restrict what we can say. I think volunteers and elected officials can. And so that's where if there's support from the commission, from the community, from the council, we would have our speakers bureau toolkit that if one wanted to, they could use to go out and talk to the community.
I don't think you want me to.
Any volunteers? Yes. So
I don't even know how I'm still on this commission, honestly. I've been kicked off, yeah.
the election, as you know, again, is November 4th. We would plan to have a check-in meeting with council November 17th to talk about the results. And then we're looking at December to check in with council about the street maintenance fee. The dates I shared with them was that at the December 8th work session, we would recommend a street maintenance fee amount and then bring a resolution to the December 10th council meeting. The caveat there is depending on how council directs the street maintenance fee to be structured, it's very possible that those dates are going to move into January just because of the work involved in setting everything up. It's not just reviewing the data, you're having to make sure that it's going to work with the city's billing system. So those dates are in pencil for sure. I think they're likely to move depending on what sort of council feedback that we receive. Okay. That's it. Any questions? Comments?
Well, I know the last time Chris spoke about the gas tax, I know the main issue was letting the community know the pros and cons, just the time frame before it was on the ballot and it has never passed. So if we're talking about this November, there's an election that add the gas tax, we're already sitting in February, at the end of February. And November will be here very quick. So my concern is back to just what she said before, is like, there just wasn't enough time to get enough out there to the community so they understand and know the why behind it and even pumped with it. I will speak on behalf of it, you know me. But that's my concern, is are we gonna have enough time to present and make sure the community is involved and understand, because it makes no sense putting something on there that we know is not gonna pass.
And this is a really bad time, I think, to
Yes.
try to do that nationally, you know, with,
The environment that we're in.
well, yeah, and the focus on wasteful government spending throughout the.
That's one of the reasons why we hired Concert to help us put together a public education and outreach. I hesitate to call it a campaign, but it's gonna be materials that we could use ahead of a gas tax if we put it on the ballot or into the future. And it's gonna be ultimately it'll be council's decision to, you know, decide whether or not it's timely. I agree with you so we've had 3 failed gas tax attempts and
Council's want any different.
That's it, sounds like we're on the same playbook.
I
Same
think if it
playbook.
was last year, it might be a different story, because people were, it was all the talk, right? The streets are terrible, you do something about the streets now, I don't know.
I know
I'm sorry.
the most recent one was put on the ballot with like zero outreach. I don't know enough about I know the one was 1982, so I wasn't working here back then, and then
Yeah, I mean, I remember the one that, the most recent one, a few years ago.
there was zero
It was
outreach.
And council just decided to put a 5 cent per gallon gas tax on, and that was just it. The question to the voters was, do you want to pay 5 cents a gallon more for gas? That was it. The answer is no.
And so we know that it won't be successful if that is what we do again, so
So are you confident that Concert is gonna give us better resources for that situation so that people are more knowledgeable about it?
I think they'll give us a better chance. So that Concert has worked with, I know, the city of Bend and a lot of other communities in Oregon that have been successful in either implementing a fee or a gas tax. So I think,
So they're experienced in
Yeah.
this situation.
Oh, so this isn't the local concert.
No, it's concert with an OR,
Okay.
not UR.
Yeah.
I know, I was trying to
Not the
figure out
property
the
manager.
coordination with all that,
They don't do it.
Consort.
They do, they are
Consort.
fingers on.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Mhm.
But no, that was my question. I don't, you got anything? I know, brother.
I will get information for Andrew to share a list of the council dates, and then I can also include a link to the street maintenance fee.
Now, at the very beginning, you were talking about bonds, is that an option that they're thinking about?
Yes, but it's tabled for now because we don't have compelling arterial and collector streets, and we wouldn't want to put a bond and a gas tax on the ballot at the same time. You know, we could talk about, well, let's do a bond for a package of local streets. I don't know how that would work. Probably the people that live there maybe would vote for it, but yes.
And it rests on the property owners, and my property taxes already went up like $200, so I think.
It's not that, I know, it's crazy, you need that tax money. That's for sure, it's because you need that tax money. All right, well, appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you for your attention. I'll probably see you next month.
Yes, we will. All right, looks like part B. So we have a presentation on the Salem Avenue Overlay Project.
Oh, yeah, that's me. I'm gonna give an update. I'm Chris Rukleski. I'm one of the engineers that works for Stacy and tries to do the nuts and bolts of stuff here. I was gonna give an update of a couple of our upcoming pavement projects that we're doing this coming summer, hopefully. So all the stars align like they're supposed to, including Salem Avenue. But just kind of give you a clue what's coming up here. I am going to try to do this for posterity. I'm going to share my screen. Hit share. I don't want that up there yet.
That looks like a roundabout.
Why is this not working? I have no idea what's happening. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, I'll figure it out.
Chris, I can see it on my screen. You are sharing it to the public.
Okay, so you can
But you-
see, I'm trying to I can't see what I want to click on. Okay, can you, Anita, can you see the info hub map here?
I do.
Okay. Okay, kind of a quick overview of a couple of these projects that we have coming up. The first one is on Elm Street between 5th and 16th, so that's kind of, that's north of Queen up to past the hospital here. This is an overlay project. This road was reconstructed with a bond measure in 2000. And so it's reached the age now where we need to replace the top layer of asphalt because it's all cracked up now because it's 25 years old. So this kind of gets back into some of the discussions that were had previously with the council and was shared with the commission was the cheapest long-term maintenance strategy for streets is to put money into roads that are in good condition to keep them in good condition. So you don't have to rebuild the entire thickness of the pavement. So here, this road was built with a pretty thick pavement section on it to last a long time. Basically, generally what a lot of research has shown is that especially on busier roads that the cracks in the roads start at the top. And as time goes on, they go deeper. So if your asphalt's thick, which this road was built with this idea in mind, you can grind off the top 2 inches of asphalt before the cracks penetrate any deeper, which is about 25 years or so. So we're kind of like, gonna get this done. And you pave 2 inches of asphalt on top of it, and you basically have a completely brand new pavement. So all that pavement underneath that top 2 inches that we paid for back in 2000 is still in really good shape. So we don't have to deal with it anymore, hopefully for ever, as long as you can keep replacing those cracks on the top. So that's what we're planning to do here.
Along the whole entire stretch of Elm.
Yeah, from 5th all the way down to 16th, so the block north of, well, I went too far. When we did Queen Avenue 2 years ago here, we came up to 16th because we did some storm drain work here.
And so Chris, just to go back to the effective pavement management, you're spending, what is it, like $1 per square yard versus 5? So that becomes pretty significant.
Yeah, as opposed to if we just waited for the road to completely fall apart, then yeah, it's a huge cost to replace that whole section of asphalt.
So
So
I'm gonna interrupt too, sorry to do it with this, but so one of the things, the nuts and bolts is when that project was done, the pipe work under the street was done as well. So all the sewers that are 100 years old, inside that right of way where there's that huge chunk of asphalt, that's already all been done. So we don't have to get in there and cut any of that stuff out. It's all, and we're double checking all of that as well to make sure that if there is something, we get in there and fix it before we pave over it.
Yeah, the one exception to that is something we didn't know in 2000 that we have since updated our stormwater master plan, and there's the storm drain pipe between 14th and 16th needs to be upsized to prevent flooding. So we're going to do that before we do this overlay, so that then we can overlay over it again, and that instead of doing the overlay and then coming back and chopping through the new surface of the asphalt in 2 years. So we kind of set it up that way. In addition, all the curb ramps will get replaced through here, which is kind of an arduous task because this is on a grid here in the older part of town, so there's lots and lots and lots of curb ramps. So
And how long is this process from start to finish you would take?
yeah, so I would guess that doing the curb ramps will probably take, honestly, probably like 3 months. But the road should be open while they do that. They'll be doing those kind of working their way up the street. The actual paving work should be done in less than a week. Okay. So that should go pretty fast. Obviously, we'll have to coordinate with the hospital and all that stuff because we're going to be in their face. The good news is that it shouldn't take very long because of those investments that were made 25 years ago, doing the hard work. Yeah, so when this was reconstructed before, this whole road was torn up for 3 or 4 months. Yeah, it was a big bomb crater for a long time, which was very inconvenient for everybody. So
Yes, it was.
Here we have this wrong.
My map is wrong,
Takina Landing Park?
that,
Elementary school.
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That is not Takina Landing Park, there's just Takina Park. Note, I will make a note of that.
Alright.
Yeah, other than that, I think the only oddball thing that we're looking at, wow, I lost my spot here, Elm Street. The only oddball thing really up here is this intersection at the very north end at Fifth and Elm. This is a three-way intersection that has one stop sign.
It's terrible.
It's very odd. I think this goes back to in all the way back before Pacific Boulevard was built. This was the highway. This was 99E came up here to Fifth and went down here. That was the highway. And that's why this is kind of set up as
So
like a
the
curve here.
Brought that intersection up multiple times on this commission.
Yeah, so I guess what thing we were considering doing is making that an always stop. Okay, that would be much more conventional.
trying to slow me down. That's like, you're just trying to slow me down.
You know how people drive on that? They
go
cut
too
that
fast.
corner.
Yeah,
And they
people
go
go,
into oncoming
yeah,
traffic.
the people going westbound cut this corner and it's kind of a little bit hard to see because there's landscaping there in the house.
You just,
It's horrible. You know, intersection is horrible.
So there's a couple of these things around town where these kind of like legacy intersections that, you know, go back.
so what you're thinking
About
about
the
is,
stop right turn. Going right that way.
that, yes. Yes, I almost stopped. You know me so well. So you're thinking of doing a three-way stop there, cause
Yeah,
I don't ever have a problem with it, cause I'm moving, so I'm not going down, I'm not by the south side. But I can see how there's been some possibly some issues, and there, imagine any accidents or any issues there.
I didn't check to see if there's any accidents, although for the whole time I've worked for the city, which is over 25 years now, we've periodically gotten complaints about that intersection, about there's a lot of near misses. Where it's like, hey, I was coming up the road here and then somebody cut the corner, they had to like slam on the brakes.
All the time.
So it's just that, you know, it's a known thing, it's not a crisis, but we're gonna be there doing something, so it'd be like, well, this would be a
I
time
have
to.
no doubt about it. I don't know
cut
how
that
people.
corner. I'll leave here, I can tell you, I will probably cut that corner. I'm not even joking. I cut it on the way here. Speaking of which.
Other than that, I mean, the road already has bike lanes on it. It's got on-street parking in some places, this was already rebuilt.
So-
We're kind of limited to what we could do at this point, we already have curb extensions at the intersections. The lanes are narrow, because you can see from this aerial photo how many cracks there are here.
So Andrew, question for you. So if we were looking at doing a three-way stop there, is that something that we decide here at the commission and pass on to the council? Or is that something that the council has to?
No, we can even do it at a staff one.
Okay.
I think we can
This is,
do it.
this is what came up in the past. I must have mentioned this a couple times before you were running meetings.
So here's the thing, I'm not about movement. If it's been talked about for decades and has been complained about for decades, why don't we just do it?
Right, and I think
And
that,
that's part of the reason, some of the stuff that has come up, it's part of the reason we're doing this thing where we're trying to bring in projects as we develop them.
Okay,
To show you what changes we're making.
so in this project that you're doing, can we just add the three-way stop?
yeah, I think that would be the plan, I guess part of the idea is we're running it by you tonight, let's see what you think, I'm not hearing any opposition to the idea.
Well, we'll wait till, I guess, because they're not doing it till the summer, so we'll have it like in March, bring that up, have that on the agenda for March to bring up this three-way stop here, because here's the thing is, I hate hearing like, oh, we've been talking about this for decades, then why haven't we done anything? Oh, no,
Well, if I remember right,
then let's just do this.
wasn't there some legal precedence that stopped us from doing it? It's like I asked for an always stop on 12th and because there's a sightline issue if you're going in. Well, I don't want to say, but if you're going eastbound on 12th across Elm, it's impossible to see. I mean, you have to pull your vehicle out in the middle of the road to see anything. And that went to city council, it was turned down because, state law. And there's an article written about it that got a lot of traction.
I mean, I don't think.
So, yeah, the way we evaluate stop control at intersection is we use what's called the MUTCD, the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Device.
Right.
So we follow those warrants. I mean, because they're developed using engineering judgment, it's a national standard.
Right.
And to protect the city against liability, when we see there's some intersections that don't fit exactly within those are the ones where we'll use engineering judgment on a staff level and then also come and talk to the commission to get feedback. I think that's how the process is.
So this was brought up at city council, this specific thing, probably 3 years ago or something. You probably Google it and find the article that was written about it, but there was a legal issue that went through the attorney or something, and because it doesn't meet ODOT requirements for an all-way stop.
Mhm.
Which caused a liability for the city if there's an accident there or something, then
You're talking about the one on Fifth that we're just looking at?
no, on the
Well, oh, okay.
But does that apply to the one on Fifth as well? It's the same road with probably the same amount of traffic and
So I guess there's a couple things.
so if we can put
And
one there,
just-
why can't we do one there or vice versa?
So I
We can't put one there. How would
There's
we
a
do that?
stop on either side of 12. I get you, on Elm, there is no stop.
Right, that was the request to make that a four-way stop. I don't remember the
It's an
details.
emergency route. I think
Correct.
that could be
That'd be
one of the
well,
reasons.
So the other thing, I don't know what I did. Okay, it's changing colors. I did not try to do that. That 12th Avenue is a local street. And Elm is a collector street.
Yeah, I'd like that reassessed too. How do we reassess that? Because there's a school on there with, and that's a ton of traffic on that.
Right, so that would be as part of the transportation system plan update that they're trying to get started now. I believe that's out for,
It's out for.
it's out for bid basically right now to select a consultant on that. So the consultants already are looking at it
And
to
that has been brought up.
Yeah.
In
So-
Plain days,
so-
and
well-
that's way more traffic than I do.
well, so
I live right there.
So I guess what I was gonna say is that Fifth Avenue is a collector as well. But that's actually why this doesn't have a stop here is because this is it's been treated in the past like this is a curve in the road. That's kind of the way that it's set up.
Yeah,
I think the issue of having, and this is an awkward intersection. I mean, this isn't a four-way intersection, like this configuration is very unusual. If you were not familiar with the area, this would not be what anything that anybody from outside of Albany would expect to have. This can have a stop sign on just the west leg of this T intersection. So you get into that thing where that's probably part, especially because you have the hospital there and stuff, where you have people who are not familiar with the area, maybe coming into this area all the time. That's creating more of this kind of ongoing safety situation here. And that is one of the criteria, it's not necessarily crash rate, or it's something that I think one of the criteria is adding the always stop could alleviate an existing traffic hazard or something like that. Because I mean, there are certain traffic hazards where adding a stop sign wouldn't have an impact on it, depending on what the cause of the safety issue is. But here, the safety issue is cars going too fast around a corner. Yes.
And now within the last year, there's a guy, I guess he works at the hospital, who parks right on that corner.
Yeah, and I think that was part of the other issue. We
Yeah.
might look at adding some yellow curb there or something too.
But when
Oh my
that
gosh.
stop
So hard
sign,
to get
because you can't park in so many feet of a stop sign, that would alleviate some, like to that.
Correct.
So I would love to have, so the full commission is here. I would, if we can table that and put that on there, does that make sense? If it's, again,
We don't want to table it.
well, we can vote, I'm with it.
Okay.
I'm with it. If it's been talked about and that's, the majority is like, hey, this is a good thing we wanna do, then let's quit passing the buck and just say, hey, when they're doing the Elm Street project, we're just gonna add a three-way stop there.
Oh, yeah. Has that even been engineered yet? Have you even started?
The plans are underway. Someone who is not me is working on those plans. So
That's
that's
something
been kind
you're
of
looking
on
at?
the back burner, as far as finishing those plans. The main thing holding up these plans is the sheer number of curb ramps. You have to design all the curb ramps, so that's.
Are they looking at some sort of stop control or something there then? Is that?
We had talked about it, I haven't talked to Carl, maybe I talked to him 3 months ago about it or something like that, but. But that's something that we can just do, I can just tell them.
That's what I'm saying, they can just do it, we don't need city council approval, something we can just do. If again, I come back to, been talked about for decades, other commissions have thought it was a great idea, you know, then just do it, let's quit just saying, hey, we want to, no, just do it. When you do the project, let's just do it.
Unless it breaks a law, right?
I'm all about breaking the law.
So we would always check those, and so like those, the other one you brought up, I don't know the specifics, you'd have to dive into them, it's.
That's what I think, just so we can get, so they can do a little bit of research on it, if there's any legal ramifications that we have to abide by. And that's why it's not there or hasn't been, you know, put there. But if there is no legal ramifications and it's just something that we can just vote on and have them do and do their own street, I think you're right, if that's been a issue, let's just get the issue, let's just get it done and taken care of.
At least research it.
Yeah,
We can do that, and I can bring that up.
perfect.
For you guys to list
Probably a memo somewhere on that with the council for
the other.
the one, well, just so it would be good to know just what the history of that.
So really fast, you mentioned bike lanes on that road. Is there any possibility to make those protected bike lanes during the repavement project?
No, because there's not enough road width, the road was purposely made really skinny. Hold it, I don't know why this changed colors here, I'm not quite sure what I did. I made it shaded here, so it's turned kind of blue, but parts of this road used to be really, really wide because it was the southern part here.
Right.
When you get down here, like south of 12th, you can see where the sidewalks are, yeah, like down here. The road used to be like 56 feet wide. It had curbside sidewalk and it was, I think the intent was that it was supposed to be a 4-lane road because it was a highway up until 1940, and they had widened it out. And then when Civic Boulevard was built, there was just a center stripe down the middle, and it was like a 4-lane wide road with 1 lane in each direction. So it was like people were going way too fast. And at least at the time, buffered bike lanes and all these things weren't a thing.
Right.
At the time, the official guidance from all the bicycle designers and advocates was you wanted to put bikes on the road with traffic because that was safer. There's all kinds of studies done showing that that was the safest place to do and to narrow the lanes to slow the cars down. So that's what the engineers in 2000 did very dutifully. So now it would probably be done differently. But again, that investment was made back then, and at this point, we'd be ripping out curbs and trees and stuff that are 20 years old and
Your 2-inch resurface turns into.
it would be a reconstruction project, actually. Yeah, it would turn, it would be a multi-dollar project.
But there are sidewalks, so.
But there are sidewalks, yeah, there are actually some of the they're at least 6 feet wide. You get up to the north end of here, I believe once you get north of 9th, the existing sidewalks, I think, are 8 feet wide.
Yeah, they're wide.
They're extra wide. And at every intersection along Elm, just about they put in the curb extensions along here to, again, to slow traffic,
Right.
to improve the pedestrian proximity distance. So again, a lot of those things have already been done here. Like, you know, we're coming up to the next year.
Yeah.
Basically, it's the first time anything's been done to this road since it was reconstructed.
Probably.
And it's basic, really, the goal of this project is really to, or the fundamental goal of this project is to protect that and resurface the pavement.
I mean, that's a smart investment.
Which is always a time to look at, hey, we're gonna be here, we're doing this striping, is there an opportunity to do anything else with utilities or bike or pedestrian facilities here?
I think this makes sense, that idea, your argument makes sense, and having it be smaller does make sense as well, so.
The other similar project we're doing here.
Albany.
Oh, I got it, I clicked on something else, and it's not the wrong color. Is at about this, like the year after Elm Street was rebuilt, the city rebuilt North Albany Road from Highway 20 up to before the train track, or right to the train tracks. So that is also due for a 2-inch frame overlay Not much is gonna change out there. It's going to be a big traffic control disaster. We're probably gonna end up having to do this paving at night, which is going to be really bad if you live over here. So I know that'll be like a lot of outreach going, I'm sorry, it'll just take a couple of days, we'll be gone.
That's where I live, so that's great.
Yeah, I know, and I don't
It's
know.
okay. I need
You're
someone
in the
out there,
village,
so-
fine.
Well,
You live in there?
That's
Yeah, I
right.
live in there.
I hate doing work at night because it's at night.
It's
It's hazardous and you just
to
miss
do it.
things and it doesn't turn out.
So when is this the North Albany project gonna go simultaneously as Elm Street, or is it gonna be one after the other?
They will both be happening this summer. I don't know exactly, generally we give the contractor a window to do the work.
Okay.
This one being where it is with the two schools just up the road, this one they're gonna have to be done with, basically their window to do the work is gonna be during the summer school break.
Gotcha.
Cause otherwise the impact to school buses and traffic is gonna be.
But this
too
will
crazy.
take a few days for them to do.
Same thing, this will be the same thing, this one doesn't have nearly as many curb ramps.
Okay.
We just have curb ramps at this intersection and this intersection. The good news, the thing that actually this project was supposed to have been built this last summer, but it got slowed down because these curb ramps are in the ODOT right of way. So we have to get a permit from them. The good news is that ODOT has issued into an agreement with us where they're paying like $110,000 for us to do these curb ramps and update the pedestrian push button at this intersection.
Oh,
So that's good news. So the good news is that they're pitching in and paying for that. They're planning to do these in the next 5 years anyway, so they have money available to do that. That's a priority.
So we foresee seeing this one project started first, to get done quicker because of the school, which makes sense. And then Elm Street then,
Elm Street, I think they'll be happening both this summer sometime. It's just that this one this one has a lot more. This one has more traffic on it, and the road network here isn't as well connected. Cause the detour is to go up Spring Hill to Quarry and around over to here, which is terrible.
I don't know.
And
For like a week though, right?
It'll be a short period of time and we'll probably do it at night.
All those in North Albany people are all used to construction anyways.
Right. Now, so for instance, when we rebuilt the North Albany Road from here across the bridge down to the train tracks a few years ago, this detour around here was in place like all summer. It was an 11-week long detour, which was
Yeah, I remember
very, very disruptive.
with your roundabout. like-
With our temporary roundabout we put in here, it was a whole bunch of crazy shenanigans we had to do to avoid it being a complete disaster, so. It's only a partial disaster because it's building for everybody, including me, because I live up there.
It wasn't a disaster, just an inconvenience.
It was
It's construction.
construction.
So I know that we're running on time. A couple of things really quick here. On the Hickory Street and North Albany connection there, I wonder if when y'all are in there doing the work, I wonder if there'd be any way to make that intersection a little bit safer for pedestrians? Because it's a pretty long walk.
Yeah, and
If you could like build like a curves or something, that would be great.
yeah,
A little bit shorter.
there's not really a whole lot we can do here because
Right,
again, this is an
right.
arterial street and this is a collector street.
So
We have like the trucks and stuff that are making these corners and so.
So my for pedestrian, when you say unsafe, are you talking about the timer from the crosswalk to get to the other side? Or-
Yeah, it's a really long walk to make. You know, so I've had multiple experiences where somebody pulled on the left turn lane coming into trying to go from Hickory onto North Albany.
Oh, right.
Almost hit me. So we can make that shorter in some way, or maybe change up the timing on the lights or something of that sort to prevent people from being able to turn when that pedestrian signal is on. Something in that sort of space, I don't know, something to make it a little bit safer. I know it's pretty
Potentially,
dangerous.
I know this is part of, maybe it's a broader. So there's a couple of things that'll happen here and I don't have my plans in front of me at the moment.
Right, just a thought.
So the configuration of these crosswalks are gonna change a little bit because the current standard is you have to have. Each crosswalk has to have its own separate curb ramp at each end, you're not supposed to share a curb ramp.
Oh, okay.
So this corner has 2 curb ramps already, you can see these are separated here, there's 1 ramp. So we're gonna put 1 ramp here and 1 ramp here, so. This should, and same thing over here, there's 1 ramp. This ramp, well. I think some of these crosswalks will end up being a little bit shorter than they are now.
That's good.
The other issue you could look at doing here would be like changing the timing. The issue is on Hickory Street, there's no left turn arrow, so it's a permissive left turn. So unless, there isn't really enough traffic there, I believe, that's why this was set up without a left turn arrow for the Hickory Street
Right.
approach, because there isn't as much traffic there that we need to have that left turn arrow. The other thing you could potentially look at doing is having like a lead pedestrian interval like we have on some of the other ones, so. I mean, when the crosswalk turns walk, the light for Hickory Street would stay red for like 3 seconds. So the pedestrian would start to cross, and that usually increases the visibility of the pedestrian. We have that over there, actually at the traffic signal up at the middle school. It's set up that way on all of them, so.
In downtown.
Yeah, the ODOT changed the ones downtown, same thing, where there's like a 3-second pause, and that's enough for the pedestrian to get out on the road. Now they're not over here on the side, they're out in the crosswalk.
Yeah,
So
that would be nice, yeah.
we could look at doing that.
And then one other thing, when that construction's happening, is there any way to move the bus stop that's currently there up in the North Albany area onto like Hickory Street or something further down, so it would still be accessible to individuals while the construction's happening? So there's that stop and go right there where the bus stops on Hickory Street onto Northwest Hickory Avenue.
Talking about the park right here?
Yeah, exactly. So there's that bus right there with the North Albany loop, and then that goes into downtown.
Yeah, well, so when we do this, that they're gonna have to keep Hickory Street open because
Okay.
all of these people over here, something
Yes.
including you, there's no other way in. Like,
Yes,
it's like
that's true.
you have to get, so they're gonna have to phase the work where they're basically gonna pave from the middle of this intersection down to here, and then the middle of this intersection up to the north.
Right.
It may even be the same night, but they're gonna have to, we're also gonna pave on Hickory Street. You see where the cracks stop here? We're gonna come back to here while we're here and do that, and then come back to here. And pick up all the stuff that was done when, that was all done when North Albany Road was rebuilt back in 2001.
Okay, that makes sense.
So again, just that little bit in there to kind of just, we don't have to come back and bump with this intersection anymore.
That's all I got.
Okay,
Yeah, sorry.
that's fine. The last one is the one that you actually wanted to hear anything about, was on Salem Avenue. We're going to do kind of the same thing, do a 2-inch grind overlay on Salem Avenue from the railroad tracks here, all the way along here, all the way along here up to the city limits, so right into like this driveway here. So just for traffic, talking to the city of Millersburg, we're gonna phase this a little bit. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do this northern part here through this intersection. We're gonna do that and require the contractor to keep at least one lane open while they do that, which is gonna, and then basically sign a detour around it. But again, that should be a short period of time. That's something they can probably do in 2 days. And it's just gonna be 2 days that are terrible. And then we'll be out of there. And that will then allow us, when we do the rest of the road, that this is available as a detour here, that we're not trapping people
That's
over here, which is bad, because there's nowhere to turn around. You're you can't see it coming because there's a car on the road out here. You're gonna have all these semi trucks coming out of Millersburg going back, and I'm stuck, so the idea was, okay, we'll do that, we'll make everyone sit in traffic for 20 minutes for 1 or 2 days, and then we'll just get out of there and have this back open as a detour. That makes much more sense to just the general public than it won't be. This will be similar. Last summer or last fall, we had the road closed here when we were working on this bridge here next to the park. And so we've learned some lessons about what worked and didn't work with that, what we're gonna incorporate. So we're gonna just start out with what was working better, but the time we got to the end of that. And again, so same thing through there, update the curb ramps. I was gonna start with, we were gonna add a couple of RRFBs out here. There's already one at Columbus, where the school is. We're gonna fix that. Hopefully right now, this RRFB pole is right in the middle of the center of a 4-foot wide sidewalk. So that's just a complete ADA barrier there. I'm gonna try to get an easement from this property owner here so we can move that behind the sidewalk the trim back their hedge there a little bit. That shouldn't be too hard to do, hopefully. And then we were looking at, where are we at here? I'm confused. That is not Irvine Street. That is Davidson Street.
Yeah, it is. Oh,
That's called J, got a couple of things for David Jacodas to fix. Anyway, there's a mid-block crosswalk here that's marked with signs. We're gonna put an RRFB there.
Yeah.
Was that one of the preferred locations?
Yes, yes, it is. And then we're going to, right, there's also this pedestrian island here at Lake Street. We're gonna remove this pedestrian island and put in an RRFB here as well.
Pedestrian Island was such a controversy back when this road was constructed.
I think the one the commission agreed on was the one across from Waverly. Yeah, it's further up.
Yeah, and then up here, this multi-use path
That's the
here,
one that we,
yeah, we're gonna put one there too.
that's one that we agreed then.
So lots of people do cross it back. Actually, since I've been out there working on the design of things, poking around.
Well, that's
I
exciting.
actually saw someone almost get hit by a car crossing in this crosswalk here.
A what?
There was an elderly gentleman here presumably walking back to the assisted living facility across the street. And he almost got hit by a car, so I was like, oh, well, people, and actually, the next time I was out there, just average woman was there just crossing the street with a bag of groceries, so like, people do cross the road there. So the RRFB will be a big improvement. And this kind of gets back into the history of things. This road was last overlaid in 1999 or 8. At the time, the RRFB didn't exist, and what you did is you put a pedestrian median island. So that was the state of the art technology in 1999.
And I think this was the first project where we put the bulb outs or the extended curves.
Yes, and at that time we added these curve extensions on here.
So
So
when is this gonna happen?
this should also hopefully happen this summer.
And is there a reason to remove the median island? Or
So
just leave it?
So there's a couple things. One, we've gotten a lot of complaints about this median island, and if you go out there and look at it, it has been hit by a lot of
I
cars.
see, I see.
I think the garbage trucks hit it coming out of Lake Street.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I've almost hit that damn thing 30 times.
It's just kind of in a weird spot because of the configuration of where this intersection is. I mean, we got a lot of complaints. There was a gentleman who used to live on this. I think he would hit it like every year multiple times, but he had an RV trailer or something, and he would hit it.
Well, it's gonna be troubling.
It's already been damaged. We would have to fix it.
Right.
The other thing is that we know just from experience, just anecdotally around town as well as from studies that have been done, the RRFB is like really effective on a 3-lane section, even with 1 lane in each direction. If we were to leave this island here, per the MUTCD, we have to put an additional RRFB
Like a
sign in the middle. It has to be on the island. So that doubles the cost of the RRFB. So we'll just remove the, in fact, we did this on Queen over by West Albany High School. There used to be, again, a median island in there that I did put in. We removed that island when we repaved the road and put in RRFBs.
And those are freaking genius, because my kid goes to that school. And I mean, watching those kids try to cross that street before that RFB was there was nerve-wracking and scary, and now it works like a freaking charm.
Yeah, they are very effective at getting drivers' attention to.
Yeah.
I think it's something like, it's over 80% of the time the first car stops, and it's like 95% the second car stops. So it's like, they're very effective at getting drivers' attention. So, I mean, it's one of those things that it's like so effective that it sometimes, new ideas don't always work. That's one that seems to be a total winner. There's like no downside. The downside to them is that is another thing that we have to maintain. They are usually to make the installation a lot cheaper. They're battery powered with solar panels, and they're communicated with radios. Those are all parts that wear out and have to be replaced. And those batteries last about 5 years, apparently, depending on the more that they get used, the faster the batteries wear out. Faster the radios wear
It's
out.
gotta be cheap, because the whole things are kind of cheap in the grand scheme of government
Yeah.
cost.
It's just that we now have a whole bunch of them, and so just kind of incrementally, it's another thing that our street maintenance people
Right.
kind of waved their hands and said, whoa, these things cost money, that's another straw on the camel's back, for.
So there's lawsuits by people getting hit.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, so like, I know that the police love them, they're like, yeah, they are very effective, as a safety feature, so.
Yeah, the police have actually, I think it's been talked about that if there's any additional revenue from the red light cameras, that may go to.
Our beast potentially, that was like that they were, that they had got that idea.
We'll see that when that happens.
Yeah,
Extra money in government.
right,
Alright, so we have summer for all three of these projects.
yes, now the other one, the most unusual thing maybe happens here is we've had this intersection at Waverly and Salem where we have, again, ongoing complaints about frantic traffic going on.
Do you want to adjust to that?
With people bypassing it, and I know personally, I'm not here, it's.
They're all out for him today.
Well, I know, but it is difficult to make a left turn here, it's actually difficult to make a right turn here. It's difficult to make a left turn this way, it's just it's a busy intersection and actually for multiple reasons. And there's warrants for traffic signals in the MBTCD, much of there are for all-way stops, and this meets none of the 12 criteria. For various reasons. I think a lot of that is actually driven by the fact that people just don't go this way. Because it's so hard to turn left, because you sit here for 10 minutes waiting to turn left, and you're like, I'll just go different. I guess that's why you take Fulton or something.
I don't know, show up.
Yeah, so these two roads are both arterial streets, so this should be a place where people intersect the road together, and so it's just not working. Everything works until it doesn't work, and so this doesn't work anymore.
You know,
So-
it worked really well when you shut the Salem Road down for the bridge. The left turn went really well.
Yeah.
So you say you can put stuff like a signal there?
No, actually, well, and this was, I will back up that, this was Ron's idea years ago, so we actually looked at, well, I'll just put it on the screen here, so the idea is to put a mini round.
Fine, dude. It'll be perfect. It'll work.
So the idea, so this would be a mini roundabout, which we don't have any of these yet, so a mini roundabout is smaller than what you typically see for a normal roundabout. The center island is completely mountable, so this is like the whole thing is a truck apron, because you'll see the truck apron around the center of the island, that's to help larger vehicles. So here, this will be raised, it'll be concrete, just like a truck apron, so if you drive over this, it's like going over a speed bump, basically. So it's not fun to do in a car, it's not dangerous unless you're going way too fast. But if for some reason you did drive over, it's just like driving on the truck apron at a roundabout. Sometimes I see people do that because it looks like that they're trying to be clever. Like, I'm gonna show you, and it's like, that's slower.
This is gonna go
You
in
can do
Waverly?
What was that?
This is gonna go on Salem and Waverly?
That's the plan, yes.
This looks
With the summers.
That's the plan, yeah.
Okay.
We have to acquire some right of way to do that,
It's like-
in discussion with the property owners.
Because I believe they designed this to stop me, so it's terrible.
It's better than a traffic light, you're like an hour or 2.5 minutes. It's gonna be fun.
You can take Fulton anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm gonna go to the roundabout.
well, that's what actually,
Go straight through it.
but so part of the idea too, because I know we had issues with that one, Bolton too, and I think part of the things that maybe to discourage, because part of what I see happening is that some people aren't just gonna like it, in general, just because it's gonna be something new, or and some people just don't. So I think maybe we could kill two birds with one stone here, is that as part of the project, then we would put 2 speed bumps on Fulton to discourage people from cutting through.
Sounds good.
Makes sense.
Sounds
Makes
good.
sense.
Maybe that would kill multiple birds.
You go back to what the previous video.
You would. You would just do a lot of good stuff.
One question with this design, I see the bike lane there seeming to end off.
Yes.
The sidewalk there, is there like a ramp for the bikes to go onto the sidewalk, or is the idea that they would be going into the traffic when the bike lane stops there?
Yeah, so in this case, like on a full-size roundabout, you would normally have, yeah, well, so. Yes, kind of, so,
Okay.
so it's good practice on a roundabout, so where you have these dashed lines, this pressure will be dashed further back on these than I've shown on here. They cut the picture off. Generally what you wanna have is that you switch to a dash line in the bike lane as you approach the roundabout, kind of as a clue to everybody that the bike lane's gonna go away and you can see that it's gonna taper out. So what you wanna do is provide a place for the cyclists to make a decision, are they gonna take the lane and just drive with the cars and go around in the road? So they have that option if you're like an advanced cyclist, or you can get up onto the sidewalk. On a more conventional roundabout, where you have more right of way, part of the issue with doing a mini roundabout here is that if we put a full size roundabout in here, we'd be buying an apartment complex.
Right.
Which we really don't want to do. So you would have like a bike ramp in advance of that.
Yeah.
And what we've done actually with our North Albany Road roundabout, we do have those on some of the approaches. There are driveway approaches there, just for residential driveway approaches. So that kind of the thought was, well, that driveway approach is a place where you can get on the sidewalk. It's not ideal, but that works. So in this case, we have a residential driveway approach here. So there is an opportunity there to get on there. There'll be a driveway approach over here. So I'm thinking that this dash line is gonna go back further.
Gotcha.
So he's kind of like, hey, I got a chance to get on the sidewalk. I would do that here. And there's actually a driveway approach over here. This one may go away. Something in talking to the property owner here, this is zoned for apartments. And they want to develop that eventually. They have no immediate plans to do that, but they're thinking, when we originally hired a consultant to come up with this design, we talked to that property owner, same property owner, and at the time they had a site plan that showed driveways on either side. And they're like, yeah, we don't want an access off of here, because that's an option you can have, but especially for like a commercial type development like that, you can take access off the roundabout because that's actually safer. Talking to them now, they have a new site plan that's very, very preliminary, but they would rather take access off of this roundabout. So this actually will be a 4-lane roundabout, which I need to figure out. I have some work to do now because it's like, dang it, I wish I knew that. I would have the consultant do it and I wouldn't have to do anything. But now I have to put that north leg on the roundabout, which then they would, there's an existing house here that their driveway would actually come off of the roundabout. And we could get rid of this driveway here because we got to rip out the curb. Now what we want to do instead, that we'll put some sort of ramp there so that, again, the cyclists have a way to get onto the side there. Because we do want people to have that option and not trap them on the road where they're
Right.
oh, I'm now where all the cars are. That wasn't what I was planning to do. So we'll have to provide a short ramp, basically like a driveway approach there to give the cyclists a way to get onto the sidewalk there in advance. It'll probably actually be where that existing driveway is actually around. So.
I think it's skirting. I agree.
I'm concerned the Salem overlay was gonna go from city limit to the train tracks or about
It's relative
To the railroad.
to the tracks, okay.
It'll take 2 days.
I hope so.
So the overlay part of Salem Avenue, I won't take a huge amount. It's a long stretch, so it's gonna take a little while. But it's probably like a week's worth of work. What we're tentatively looking at now, I haven't been thinking this through all the way with the actual contract yet to send to the contractors, but I'm thinking that they will be allowed to close, well, there'll be two things. They should be able to do all the curb ramp work and a lot of that RRSB work while traffic is still open, because there is a 3-lane road, so they can just close one of the lanes and shift everyone over. They can get a lot of that stuff done ahead of time. In order to build this, we're gonna have to close the road down. In order to pave the road, we're gonna have to close the road down. So I'm thinking that we allow them like a 30-day closure to rip everything out here, pave this roundabout back in, and pave everything and stripe everything, and then might drop one away over that. No, that's always the goal. No, so I've never done I've tried. We've always been like, okay, you gotta be done. Like everything's done when you finish paving and striping. Then you just open the road and you just walk away. And that's always the goal out here. So they're not out there messing around after that because it's complicated. So anyway, that's probably the strangest thing on this project is this, but this is actually digging out, this is a reconstruct, it was pull all the existing pavement out and redo it to make the grades work. So
So summer's gonna be a fun time, I'll say.
there's gonna be, we're gonna share the fun, we're gonna have West Albany, North Albany, and kind of Central Albany work happening all at the same time, but
So leave all that.
yeah. It'll be fun, so. Any other questions on?
No,
this?
if I could veto that plan, I would, but it looks like it's going in there.
Thank you for sharing all this was really.
No, yes, absolutely, Chris, thank you very much. As we move on, so I know we're pressed for
Sure.
time now. Any business from the commission?
I wanted the next meeting to circle back to your idea, Frankie, about the late night buses. At the
Okay.
next meeting, but just put that on the docket.
Do we have somebody from ATS?
No, it's just an idea that Frankie brought up a while back that I thought was really smart.
Yeah, I just know the little bit I know about transit, that's something that they're aware
Right.
that there's a gap in the. I think it's down to money.
Yeah.
They would love to extend the hours of us, of the
Yeah,
transit
yeah.
system. And so there might be, I think as a side note, I think the legislature is looking at potentially increasing the payroll tax for transit, but that's something they were considering. And so that potentially might open up some more.
Yeah.
That's the intent of that, is to provide better transit service, so I don't know, again, it's all in the sausage factory of the legislature, so I don't know what actually will come out of that.
I like the wording. Any business from the staff?
I think I can defer to the next one.
Appreciate you. Any business from the public? All right, with that said, next meeting date will be March 25th, 2025 at 5:30 in this building. I would like to adjourn this meeting.
Yeah.
At what time? At what time?
5:30 PM.
Oh, no, what time are we adjourning at?
Oh, my bad. As 6:54.